Ding ding. Bloop.
So raise your hand if you've ever had a childhood. Okay, there are a lot of things that come to mind when we hear the word childhood. No homework, no responsibility, and happiness. But for some, the word childhood brings back stark memories of a time of unhappiness. There's a lot that goes into childhoods which impacts a child's behavior as they go into adulthood. One of the biggest is the innate desire that children feel to be accepted. Thus, they will do endless things to get attention, crying as a baby, reaching into the forbidden cookie jar as a toddler. All examples of our primordial drive for acceptance.
This can be proven in children that lack affection and acceptance from a young age. As the National Academy of Medicine explains in 2000, through hours of research, they found that children who lack affection attempt to resolve their issues through external means. However, due to the lack of social skills being formed from an early age from lower amounts of interaction, they begin to look towards giving in, slugging it out, or arguing. Thus, they continue to look for avenues of compassion and friendship, and yet they are never truly able to fulfill their desire because they have never been taught how to do so in the first place. Frankenstein's monster also attempted to look for this avenue as after rescuing a child from death, he hears a shrill scream, followed by, quote, "Let me go," he cried, "monster, ugly wretch, you would tear me to pieces," despite Frankenstein explaining that he never intended to hurt the child.
This is really important because when looking at Frankenstein's monster, he was rejected from an early age, just like the children in the past research assessment. Thus, Frankenstein's monster seeks an antisocial tendency which makes him feel loved. From gathering wood for the villagers' fire to looking for food, he wants to be noticed despite his physical appearance. Unfortunately, as Frankenstein continues to try and find compassion, he never truly does. This leads Frankenstein's monster to explain that the reward for my benevolence, I had saved a human being from destruction, and as recompense, I now breathed under the miserable pain of a wound which shattered the flesh and bone. Inflamed by pain, I vowed eternal hatred and vengeance to all mankind.
The necessity of acceptance is metaphorically mirrored through the story of both Frankenstein and his creation. In the case of the former, Frankenstein's anguish becomes prominent following the murders of his beloved friends and family, prompting him to disregard all other drives except one, revenge. Thus, the absence of familial love led to Frankenstein's regression. He became the beast that he had long condemned. Victor became his monster, a filthy demon to whom he had given life. Shelley 59. This further illustrates Shelley's belief that the primal call for acceptance is a prerequisite to all other desire. Her highlighting of the precariousness of the methodological naturalism is a resolute affirmation that all developing life needs acceptance.
The case of the latter further illustrates this point. Frankenstein's monster only regresses, as well as throwing away any socially productive means of communication he had learned in exchange for revenge and death. Thus, this proves that our desire for acceptance is so large and important to the development of our minds that lack of acceptance creates a downward spiral, resulting in a less productive member of society.
So what can we do? It's important that during childhood, children are given the love, care, and acceptance that they aspire for. As the previously cited National Academy of Medicine proves, children who feel more accepted take up leadership positions within friend groups, develop quicker mentally, and ultimately create powerful, long-lasting friendships.
So maybe we all did have childhoods despite some of the audience members' humorous interpretations. And our behavior as children has had a lifelong influence on our behavior. But sometimes it's the influence of the external characters in our life that ultimately will play the biggest role.